What's up, guys? Welcome into a live episode of From the Wing coming at you on Black Friday. Adam, how should I feel about this U.S. men's national team game coming up in an hour against England? Are we gonna get rocked?
We should get rocked. The great thing about this, like soccer, you have a lot of different versions of soccer games and matchups and everything. You never want to be like the front runner with expectations. Like it's always good to be the underdog. We're the underdog. We're the underdog against a really, really talented team. The kind of the bugaboo team that can't win the big game, but they're super deep. So they should kick our ass. Like Harry Kane should absolutely dump all over us. Their attackers are incredible, but our midfield is like really legitimately very good. Defense is a little suspect. Attacking is a little suspect. We should get rocked. If you were betting this game, U.S. is very likely playing for 0-1. Like keep the game tight and then pressure late and try and get a goal out of it, or just take the tie.
The stuff I've read about American soccer, in the lead up to the World Cup is, hey, look, we've always been this scrappy, plucky underdog, but we have this academy infrastructure sort of in place now to where we can start producing, better talent. Like we're finally laying the foundation in the way that we should to really compete on the global stage. Is that the way you see it? Is that understanding correct?
Yeah, I mean, pardon my son crying in the background if you can hear that. The way we were always set up, we were like a rich kids pay for play system nationally, and it makes it really hard to get youth prospects up correctly into the right camps and everything. So they have done a lot. A lot of people didn't like Jurgen Klinsmann as a coach for the U.S., but he told us a very, very hard truth from the minute he got here, and that's we're built completely wrong. And we have actually done we've taken some of the steps. The biggest thing is like a few years ago, 2 World Cups ago, nobody wanted to hear that our players needed to go play somewhere else to be their best selves. And now we've just embraced the fact that all of the best soccer truly is in the German system and in the EPL, and everywhere we can get one of those players stationed, that's where they are. Like most of the guys on this team are playing for like huge teams. They're playing for championship level teams. They're playing for Premier League teams. They're playing in Bundesliga. We're putting them with the top talent in the world, and they're developing nicely. This is still a super, super young team. But yeah, I would say they have started to get it right. This team's super young. Like they shouldn't do anything yet. And if they do, like it's all gravy.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait for that World Cup to come to North American soil in 2026. I'm definitely going to be trying to hit some of those games, and hopefully by then, like I don't know, we'll see what happens today, but hopefully by then it's like, okay, we're a legit player. I mean, that's kind of the hope, right, domestically among the diehards.
Yeah, and with the ages that these guys are, like the guys that are on the team right now, and like the guys that got left off the team, like Ricardo Pepi didn't get selected, and he was your big young goal scorer that chose the U.S. over Mexico, and he's now waiting in the wings for his next opportunity when he's going to be 22 years old. Most of the guys on this team are 24 or younger. Christian Pulisic is actually the journeyman. Like him and DeAndre Yedlin are the old men on the team. Which is pretty crazy. It sucks that we wasted a World Cup for Christian, but we're better than expected ahead of time right now. And it bodes really, really well for the World Cups to come that we're making decisions to cut guys that other nations would start. Like Pepe would start for a lot of countries, and he did not make our team.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk some Pels. I thought, two really encouraging wins this week over some bad teams. The Warriors didn't have any of their starters. They have basically the worst bench in the NBA, and they started that bench, and that game went as it should have. The Pelicans won by 45 points. They come into San Antonio night before Thanksgiving, beat up on a really bad Spurs team. I think the Spurs have lost 10 or 11. I think that, start they had was a little bit of fool's gold. Like, to me, they look like they are going to be a prime Wembanyama team. And I I kind of hope they don't get that, because it's like, well, they got, Tim Duncan, who was,
Right.
like that guy 20, 25 years ago or whatever. So I hope it's not them, but yeah, they're going to be in the running for that. Maybe they'll be one of those teams with the 14% chance or whatever it is, the teams with the best chance to get Wembanyama. But the takeaway from the San Antonio game to me was that breaking news, Zion Williamson is pretty good at basketball, Adam. I don't know if you've heard of him or anything.
I've heard of him before. I think he played a little ball in college, and he seems decent, seems fairly decent. Yeah, this was like an NBA reminder game, even though it's against scrubs. Like, if you've watched this franchise for a long time, we jokingly call it like playing with your food. This franchise has played down to bad teams in the past. And now this team is so talented that even when guys are missing from the lineup, they still just absolutely shithoused bad teams. And man, if you believed that Keldon Johnson shooting over 40% from three was real and that the Spurs were good, then man, beachfront property in Iowa. Like, the Spurs are not good. They are designed not to be able to shoot. They do not have shooters on the team. Devin Vassell is the only one. Everybody else is hot garbage. They are still looking to trade Jakob Poeltl away. They're not trying to be good. They just had like one of those first 5 games, like, the Wizards for like 3 years in a row post John Wall injury, just like won the first 4 games of the year, and everybody's like, "Whoa, the Wizards!" And then fast forward to game 10, and they're 4-6. Like, this just happens in the early NBA. Guys are coming back rusty. Guys are coming back from injuries. Teams aren't completely constituted yet, and that's all we saw. Big fan of Jeremy Sohan, obviously. Have to admit, it was pretty fun watching Zion in his first post up with Sohan. Just stripped it right out of his hands. Just yanked the ball off him. He punished him all night. He put him on the floor. Like, I think he's probably got a sweat imprint on the hardwood behind the rim. He got absolutely housed by our dancing mammoth Zion Williamson. It's been
Look
fun,
how they
man.
massacred my boy.
My poor adult son.
Yeah, man. We both loved Sohan coming into the draft. I still like him a lot. Like, defensively,
I still like him.
I think he's going to be a monster. I think he would have been a nice.
Have you
fit
seen
on
the
this team.
quotes? Have you seen the quotes coming out of players' mouths about playing against him? Oh, dude, he's basically Rodman. Like, the stuff people are saying. Steven Adams had a really good quote where he's like, the guy's like pinching me and talking shit constantly. Like, he just never shuts up and he never stops. It, like, he dyes his hair to look like Rodman. He's acting like Rodman. He's pinching people's butt cheeks like Rodman. Like, hey, I love it. I'm gonna hate him his entire career while he doesn't play here. It's just gonna suck that he's gonna play for a really bad team for a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I remain really high on him. Zion just destroyed him. I mean, the single meanest thing that Zion did this year was the play in the first half in transition where he took it down and Sohan was kind of on his shoulder, and Zion just dipped the right shoulder into him and went up and made that left-handed layup. And Sohan looked like a crash test dummy. Like, he hit the floor and he legitimately experienced whiplash. Like, his head just like bopped off the floor. And I was like, dude, are you okay? Like, that was pretty scary stuff. I mean, look, I thought this was Zion's most dominant game of the year. Missed 4 of his first 7 shots. It was really, he missed 3 of his first 6 because the one was like a heave. Closed the game with 11 straight makes, finished with 32 on 14 of 18 shooting, 11 rebounds, some really nice activity on the defensive end of the floor. This was a complete game to me. This looked like Zion pre-foot injury to me a little bit.
Yeah, and we've been talking about in the lead up, like what the mix of the offense is going to look like, and you're seeing a lot more of the initiation, everything. I was really happy to see. I mean, in the absence of CJ, you saw Bi and Zion play really well off of each other, and that's one of the things that like they're going to have to figure out. So it's nice to see them have that time and play off each other so well, and to see Zion just stick with the game plan regardless of the fact that the early shots weren't going down, and then fast forward to the end, and you're like, oh, he completely dominated this game, that nobody could contain him, and he just exposed it over and over and over again. Um,
Yeah, the
I mean,
variety of ways he made shots too really stuck out to me. I mean, it was some point Zion stuff certainly, but he scored every way. Like he scored off
yeah,
post ups, he scored in transition, he scored off dribble handoffs. I tweeted a couple clips a couple of minutes ago. In the second half, the Pelicans did this action where they cleared out the right side of the floor. They had Larry Nance Jr. at the top of the key, handoff between Larry and Zion. Zion scored on it both times. I love to see him being used that way. I mean, the way I feel about it, Zion, is it's fine if you want to dump the ball to him in the post, a couple of times, but Zion creating outside in, Zion coming off of movement and just getting him on the move is the best way to use him. Like you gotta sprinkle some of that in.
yeah, and to the greater part, the entire team and kind of Willie's offense in general attacked with just nonstop variety. They challenged at every level. Everyone touched the ball. It never stopped moving. It was one of those like really high points for that fast read and react offense, and it reflected in Zion. And it reflected in the entire team. Jose slides in as your starting point guard. You missed nothing. You saw absolutely no change. Najee was aggressive in a variety of ways and was very fitting. Everybody just kind of played their part, and we lit the Garrett Temple minutes victory cigar at the end, and that's what you want to see. That's what I want in every shitty game against bad teams. I want them to light that cigar and see a little bit of the end of the bench, but specifically like when Garrett Temple hits the floor, that's like all right, we're here, we made it, yeah, it's all good, we did it, it's done, and then you get rest. It's hard to say that an 8 minutes difference in the amount of time played in a single game is going to make that big of a difference. But every minute you can get off of Zion's legs and Bi's legs and everything for the long haul, and when they're playing games, like give me all the fourth quarter rest we can muster this season. We have plenty of back-to-backs and some away stretches coming. You're going to need that. You got to get home fast on some of these bad teams so that you can save your legs for the future.
Yeah, and I don't know how you personally felt, but when I saw that CJ was going to miss the game, they said it was a non-COVID illness Wednesday. They've since changed it to he's in the health and safety protocols. I was thinking, okay, Jose is going to get the start, and I feel great about this. Like I don't feel nervous at all about the offense missing a beat or anything like that, and I think that's exactly what happened. I actually thought Jose played, for him, relatively sloppy game. Like he had 5 turnovers. But still did a lot of really nice things. Jose is really, I think I guess Kyra Lewis Jr. could fit in this category too, but Jose is really the only pure point guard on the roster, right? Like I'm not opposed to starting CJ McCollum at lead guard. Like I think it's going to, be fine at time, but Jose is really the only pure point guard you've got. Just has an understanding of, pace, tempo in the half court, where to get the ball to guys in the spots that they like the ball. And we saw that exactly. I mean, one of the highlight plays to me was the half court oop to Zion. That was reminiscent of the Lonzo Ball days a little bit.
Yeah, that's that 3/4 court stuff. It always scares me too when they try it. I'm like, it's gonna go bad. Like his wrist is gonna hit the rim, or he's gonna clock his head or something. Like, dear God, please protect him. Come down from heaven. I know we haven't talked in a while, but I ask you for one thing, and it's protect my gigantic flying son. But yeah, that stuff's that's the Hollywood stuff, man. That's the highlights. Windhorse was on with CJ this week, and they were talking about like, should Zion be an even bigger star than he is, and like more of that stuff and more time on court, and he will be all those things because those highlight plays happen all the time. The biggest thing, and I said this to you via text, that like my most important takeaway, maybe not the biggest thing that was present in these last 2 games, but my biggest takeaway is we saw defensive effort from Zion. We saw rebounding effort from Zion that was far beyond what he has given in the previous games. And that was really exciting, especially against bad teams, because like you could coast. Like there's a temptation to coast when you're up 20 and 30 points. And they did not, and he did not. And he was skying over people trying to get rebounds. Like he was very, very aggressive. And defensively, he just held up a whole hell of a lot better. He hustled on closeouts a lot better. He was, he didn't get punished as the last guy in a rotation when they're kicking the ball around the horn as much. Like he looked like a passable defender, one that you can't just target and get away with. And you saw the athleticism that you see on the offensive end. We saw it on the defensive end too. So a little bit of the like mystery level of like, why is there gas in the tank on one end and not on the other? We saw a little bit of that gas leveling out. We saw him do it on both ends. He's been good reading passing lanes as a secondary and tertiary defender all season, but now we saw it, in one-on-one situations. We saw it in rotations. We saw it in closeouts. So just excited to see the first signs of that. Does that mean that's going to happen all season? No, but we needed to see it. It needed to start somewhere, and it started. And, everybody was reliable. Defensive effort was incredible. Like Dyson Daniels again. He's just
oh my God, dude.
He's just great.
The block at the end of the game was holy crap. He got him with his left hand again. He had the one in the preseason in Birmingham that was a lefty block. I can't remember who he chased down on the Spurs, but the Spurs player thought he was going to have a dunk right at the buzzer. Dyson said, nope. Went up with his left hand and got it. I don't know if he was credited with a steal on an inbounds pass, but he created a turnover on an inbounds pass. Like I keep saying, well, Dyson is going to be a special defender. He kind of already is a special defender at 19 years old, which is
let's drop the gun.
Extremely rare. Like I mean, guys don't come in at 19 years old as rookies and are this impactful on defense. Now, granted, he hasn't played that much. Like he's oftentimes not having to guard the other team's best player, but he might already just be a special defender.
Yeah. So we talk about Herb and Jose and coming in from college and being immediate good defenders and being shocked by that. They were both seniors. They both played out their college career. They both came in their early 20s. Dyson is a child. And it's not just like Herb has the super stretcho extendo arms and Jose is just an absolute pit bull who's just really, really smart about where his hands are and how fast he moves and just outworking guys. Dyson looks like just a clinical, all-world, high IQ defender in all the situations he's in. His body positioning, his footwork, and he's doing it to LeBron James and Luka and Zach LaVine. Like his first assignments are the best scorers in the world, and he's stripping them and blocking them or getting a good contest. He does not look overmatched. Like I understand the comparisons to Herb now, and honestly, because he's not getting the notably shitty whistle that Herb's been getting, it looks even better. He looks good. Like if you just watch him, anybody that wants to go nerd out a little bit, just stare at him on a possession. Just give it 1 or 2 possessions where you just stare at him. Just don't even watch anything else. Just watch him run around. He's never going to be out of position. He's going to be ahead of the offensive decision maker every time. And it's going to lead to them not getting to the spot they want and settling for something that they don't want to do. And he's going to strip you, block you, contest you, make you go super high glass. He's been incredible. He has been absolutely incredible. Like, dare say it, better than Herb this time last year. Herb is a saint in this house. But it's
build the whole thing
just as good, if not better. Yeah. Build the whole thing out of Herb Jones's and now Dyson Daniels's.
Yeah, I mean, trying to put my finger on what's different about Herb and Dyson defensively. Herb, I think, relies a little more on physicality and making him feel you. And I think Dyson is more of an anticipation defender. Like he just understands, well, you're going to try to go here, so I'm just going to cut you off and give you a little bit of space and use my length to just make it tough on you to pass the ball or shoot the ball. that is the difference between those two guys to me. You know how last year in the first round series against the Suns, at the end of it, we're like, oh my gosh, the Pelicans essentially had 9 guys who played and 3 of them were rookies. This is crazy. Like at the end of the year, the rooks were all in the rotation. It kind of feels like we're headed that way this year too. Like I bet, after playoff time, like I would be surprised if Dyson Daniels not in that playoff rotation, just because when you have 3 stars and they're, like offensive minded players like Zion, CJ, Brandon, you just need to put good, versatile defenders around them come playoff time. And I think we're headed there with Dyson. I feel like I've already seen enough to feel confident in saying that.
And add to that, he's not just that great defender. He's also a really, really good passer. Yeah. Really not afraid at all to attack the paint himself. Like he's just, we've talked about him being fearless. If we're talking about his defense being this good, and then you're talking about like, is he going to have to play, in playoff minutes to protect you on defense? He doesn't just protect you on defense. He adds offense. He adds another person that can move the ball. And as much as he anticipates on defense, he anticipates on offense. He operates like he's not necessarily ready to be your point guard or anything. But if you put him in situations to make decisions, he's going to make good ones, and he's going to make them early. Like he touches the ball, and I think they said it on the broadcast probably 3 or 4 different times. Know your personnel. And when Dyson was on the floor, especially, I've been rooting like you would not believe for this Devontae heater that we're watching right now. I wanted it so bad just because the rotation numbers are minus and he's an easy target because he's small, but he plays his ass off and they love him. And I just want to see him be the guy he was in Charlotte, playing off of Zion's gravity. And he starts bombing, just absolutely bombing. And whenever Dyson was out there with him, Dyson had open looks. And he's like, yeah, but Devontae's open too, and he's on fire. So as soon as he touches the ball, it's going sideways. It's in Devontae's hand. It's up and in. And it's just, it's simple stuff like that, but it's also running in the lane, catches a pass, and immediately kicks it across to the corner. Like he's very, very bright. Like we talked about Herb's defensive IQ. This kid's just general basketball IQ appears to be incredibly high, and it's reflecting on both ends. There's tons of stuff he can refine. Defensively, like I don't have any commentary. Like he plays you with his chest when he needs to. He sets traps. He anticipates. He stays grounded when he needs to. He's looked pretty flawless for being a 19-year-old on that end so far. On the offensive end, there's so much to grow into. He's not afraid to run transition, not afraid to get in the paint, early decision maker, good passes, not afraid to finish. And he seems like, we talked about stoicism. He's like stoic and unfazed in all moments. And like, you got to have a dude like that. You got to have like the steady ship guy. And he's not just the steady ship guy.
Did you see the book that CJ was bringing onto the team plane as they're headed to Memphis?
No. Oh, wait. What? No. I was going to say if he like said it in a pod, but I don't remember what he had.
The Daily Stoic.
Oh, so he's trying to get to know Herb and Dyson. All right.
NBA players, I'm not ragging on them. Man, they love like airport books. They really love like books that you could buy at the airport.
Najee is apparently reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I don't know if we're going full F-bombs, but that was apparently reading that.
A Trey Murphy recommendation. So like just jumping back to draft time real quick. Like I remember us talking about, well, we really like Dyson. We really like Sohan. We thought both of them would be in play for the Pelicans. I think we both settled on, well, I would rather them take Dyson than Sohan. And I feel like, this quarter of the season, what I've seen from both those guys is I like both of them, but the difference is, they're not that different in size. Like Sohan is a little bigger. He can guard bigger than Dyson. But just the ability to put the ball on the floor and like, decision make, Dyson is clearly just superior in both those categories. And, that counts for a lot. Like I thought this was such a good landing spot for Dyson because I would have hated for him to go to a team where it's like, we're going to rely on you to be like the primary, the secondary creator. Yeah. Like, I just don't think that's his game right now. Like, I think he already, he's best as this complementary player next to offensive engines. Like I think he's just very well suited to play that way. I mean, that's why I thought this was such a good landing spot, and I think that's kind of borne out so far. Let's go back to Zion real quick. I wanted to spend a little time talking about post game interview. You know, I thought it was pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys caught it, but after the game, you know, Jen Hale, who, like, if you know Jen, is like genuinely one of the nicest people ever, asked Zion what his favorite Thanksgiving dish was. And Zion basically said, I'm not going to answer because no matter what I say, social media, he knew social media would make fun of him, and he wasn't wrong. And, you know, I saw a bunch of people say, like, well, like, people need to get off of his back. This is kind of like people have taken it too far. And I think that's true. But I thought it was very, you know, I think telling on a lot of fronts. And I thought it was a really interesting moment, you know, like, I think we're kind of having this conversation of athletes and mental health and what are requirements of the job, and when are people taking it too far. But I feel like we should at least talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, we live in a weird time. Like everybody, like I'm fearful of it. You know, now raising a kid, the ability for a random stranger and the motivation for them to openly and directly mock you for your whatever your daily habit is. The accessibility is just so high, and their ability to do that in like a public forum for all to see, it's unparalleled. We didn't have that as kids growing up. Like, we dealt with bullying and stuff in school. You dealt with like a guy that didn't like you and you might have to fight him after lunch period. But this is more than that. This is like people behind anonymous accounts that like get clicks off of ragging on guys. I hate it personally. I don't tend to associate like any accounts that are shocked when I've either like blocked you or I don't interact with you at all. If I don't know that you're an actual human being, like, that's just not how I operate on Twitter. I avoid, for the most part, talking to people that are just like random AVIs and a weird stand name. You know, if you're nice and you engage in conversation, sure. If you show me a single sign that you're like a troll, I think trolling is like the lamest thing in the history of mankind. It's just like the lowest common denominator humor. And it's never that funny. And anybody can do it. And I think that's why it's like easy to do. So like, I have some sympathy there that he's not wrong. Whatever his answer was going to be, he was going to get mocked. And he probably got mocked anyway for not giving an answer. Like, he's not going to win until he wins. This is one of those things where, like, when he's ahead of the game on this and people don't have to ask the questions anymore, then some of this will die down. But there will still be random anonymous accounts that are shitting on him all the time. Like, that's kind of the balance. It's like, to some degree, you need to filter what you're looking at and view it through a different lens, or don't view it at all. Like a la Brandon Ingram, just don't view it. Just do the approach of only doing your marketing stuff and then get the hell off of there. Is that realistic to ask a guy in his early 20s in this day and age? No, probably not. And, you know, he seems to like Instagram. Instagram's one of the worst places when it comes to comment sections and people just randomly throwing stuff out there. So I have some sympathy for it. I understand why people are critical of him. You know, he has criticism to answer. People do go too far. I understand not wanting to answer that question and just try to avoid the whole thing. Obviously, Jen didn't have anything mean-spirited in it. That's a super common Thanksgiving question. Like, that's what we do. Funny enough, we do that on a football field for a defensive end, and nobody's going to mock that guy. They're like, oh, wow, he's a monster. Well, this dude is a defensive end. He just plays basketball. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a defensive end
I
with
want
a
to hear
45-inch vertical.
Yeah, I want to hear about like what, like, is he the anti-turkey guy? Is he the, like, these are the profound takes of our lives. The people that are like, throw entire sides, like, I don't want to see a vegetable side at my Thanksgiving. These are the important questions that we need answers to. I would love to know which camps he sits in. Is he a sweet potato guy? Is he an anti-pumpkin pie guy? I want to know all that stuff, but I totally understand him not answering it because it's, you know, it's kind of a trap for him right now. It's just too easy for random accounts and non-random accounts. Honestly, there will be checkmark accounts that make fun of him ESPN and commentators and people that have delivered these games to you have made fun of him on air. So
yeah,
I get it.
I think what Zion is learning is media is one part of the job, like being a superstar, like an important part of the job is managing the media well. And it is something to be managed. You could use it to your advantage. You can avoid fires. If you just ignore it, it's going to become problematic for you. Like I just think this year, they're like, as CJ talked a little bit about this on Brian Windhorst pod, and I thought it was pretty insightful. Like this was something that came from CJ of like, look, he's telling Zion, you have this great personality. Let people show it or show it to the public a little bit. And I think, he's done a much better job of that this year. Um, I thought it was kind of noteworthy too that, did you see Ja Morant quote tweeting the whole interaction? He was like, this and the Drewski video were really funny. I just thought it was interesting because I feel like, Zion and Ja, like same age, taking one spot apart, both kids from South Carolina. Like Ja to
they're
me
like
is an
friends.
example. Yeah, Ja to me is an example of this guy, like I think deals with social media as well as any young great athlete in the NBA. Like I think he understands what it is. Like you can't if you're going to read the Twitter and the Instagram comments, like I guess you can use that for fuel, but like you can't just live there or else it'll get in your own head. And I think Zion is learning that too. But I don't know. I thought it was, just him and the way he's been more aware of how he's perceived in the media and interacted with the media. Like I think overall he's doing a better job. And it was just kind of sad to see that too. It's like, ugh, man, this dude's only 22. Even though, I think a lot of the criticism has been legitimate.
Yeah, like he faces clear, like obvious criticism, and at the same time, you totally understand why he's gun shy about talking about that one specifically. And it's such an innocuous holiday question. And so hopefully, like come Christmas time, I don't think we're not playing on Christmas, but hopefully come Christmas time, he gets, maybe we like building blocks. I want to get closer I want to hear his takes. Like just at some point, I want the moment when he gets to lean into the fact that he does love food and tell us what you think. Be a connoisseur. Tell us what you like. I want to learn about you. And like I do think like you said, the media stuff he is managing a lot better, and it's easier to manage it better when you're playing basketball and you're not hurt because you don't have to constantly answer questions about things you can't do. Now he's getting to do a lot of show you, and I think that's where he's comfortable. I've made no qualms about the fact that I think he can be a little like overly packaged and a little corny and trying to give you like this character version of himself. I know people talk about him being bubbly and charismatic. I find a lot of his answers to be like they were practiced before he walked in. And that always feels weird. I'm excited for him to get into a more natural state of things. I think that comes just like his defense comes with playing basketball. Just give that dude more time, more reps, and let's just see him become part of the NBA conversation, see him become the top of the league star that he's supposed to be, because clearly it's all in there. Clearly he is. Everybody talks about us being like, you got to have the freak to win a title. We have the freak that can win a title. We also have a superstar shooter who has a really underrated ability to create for other people. And that's a lot of the way. And then you have tons of young depth. We're a lot of the way there. And now we just got to go take the lumps. And I'm just excited to see that play out and normalize and for us to talk about more basketball.
His funniest rehearsed line, at least I'm assuming it was rehearsed. If you thought of this off the cuff, kudos to him, was when, he was injured during his rookie year and cameras caught him, maybe drifting off to sleep on the bench in this sleepy game in Detroit. And then a couple of days later, he said, "Oh, y'all caught me meditating, huh?"
That's the good stuff. That's good. That's really good. More of that. Yeah, he's going to learn. I mean, look, from all the sounds of it, it sounds like he's got good people in his ear. Sounds like he's talking to CJ a lot. CJ is obviously very cognizant of public perception. He's a good person to be leaning on. And they're all aware of what the stakes are. They're all saying the right things. So just give him some time. You just need some time.
So The San Antonio game, you hit on it a little bit earlier. I thought it was an example of Brandon and Zion playing off of each other pretty well. I know I tweeted like last week. I didn't think they complement each other that well yet. I know some folks did not agree with me. I guess my thoughts on that is like I don't think it can't like I don't think it's not going to work or anything like that. Like, I have a lot of faith in them being able to figure it out. It's just when I watch them play, I guess the best way I can explain it is if they're both ones, it only adds up to like 1.8 for me. And then, when I watch other stars play, like Jokic and Murray, I think are the best example. Like, say they're both ones, like that adds up to like 2.5 for me. Like together, you know, they make each other better. And I just haven't seen that so far from Zion and Ingram. But did you think that was unfair? I mean, what are your thoughts on just them as a tandem so far?
I just think, we talked about it a little bit in a prior episode about like the ask is going to be higher on Brandon because he's going to be the person that can kind of unlock it because of his ability on ball, because of his ability to move, because of being a 3-level threat. Like he has the versatility necessary. I said before, I kind of feel like it's an early Miami Heat kind of challenge where you have to figure out how much of the ball needs to go to who. And when you have those two and CJ out there, like every one of them should feel like they want to score every bucket down. And you got to balance that. You got to figure out how are all three of you a threat at all times? And we just get it to the dude who's open. And if you go for 30 tonight, you go for 30 the next night. Like that's the place that they have to figure themselves out. I think we've seen some signs of like CJ like flying off ball a little bit and that making things look better. I think we saw, with CJ removed from the picture, you saw BI and Zion play off each other really easily. Zion put out some really nice quotes talking about like how well he feels like he can play with Brandon and how smart they feel like each other are and how well they feel each other out. I think it just takes time. Like they just haven't played a lot. It is hard to be that critical of them when they have not played together at all. And the last time they did, they were not being asked to run like this. They were not being asked to play this way. And I think you're seeing like it just takes time when you're asking, like you're also asking Brandon to get more 3-pointers up. You're asking him to confidently step in and help with the math. You're asking CJ to be more point guard than he's ever been in his entire career. We're asking a lot in the first full season of these guys. And so it's hard for me to have any like real.
I mean, it's not the first full season; it's the second full season. But it was a different head
all
coach.
three though. Of all three,
yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm talking
it's the
about
first
Zion
full
and
season
Ingram.
of all three. Yeah, I just think that the full challenge is the three of them and the sharing of the ball. So like, I think Bi and Zion shouldn't have a problem fitting because of Bi's versatility. I think like when you talk about Murray and Jokic, I feel like that's kind of an easy dynamic because Murray is a scoring guard first. Murray is not the half court setup guy pressuring at 3 levels. Like he's an athlete who can shoot. And Jokic is actually the inverse big who can do just everything. Everything offensively you can dream of, he can do it. There's not a player to comp him to kind of ever. And for a guard who doesn't need to do that stuff to feel his game, that's a great guy to play with. And we don't have as natural a role fit there because both of them want to be on the ball. So we just have, Dwayne Wade and LeBron both wanted to be on the ball too, and they figured it out. Like I'm going to keep saying that because it's the example of high usage talent that needed to create their own buckets that had to figure itself out. And it took like 60 games before they really sorted it out. I feel like that's kind of what we're looking at. And we're already seeing little inklings of it fixing itself. I think we just need time. I don't mind playing these little cupcake games against shitty teams, more of those so that they can just go run and play the system and feel what success looks like and know like these are the spots where guys fit. But I think it looked good. It's trending the right way.
Yeah, a couple thoughts on that. I mean, I think that Brandon just shooting more threes is like one of the definite things I can say that would help this situation. CJ talked about that with Windhorse. Like CJ has said, like he's telling Brandon, you need to get more up. Like he said that in the media a couple times. Brandon has been doing that a little bit, but if you're playing with Zion, I mean, I just think you have to camp out on the 3-point line and like just take those catch and shoot threes when they're there. Like that is very, very necessary. And I would love to see him, get back to that. Like he's getting up 6, 7 threes, which he was doing, during the year with Alvin Gentry. I think too, like you're right that look, yeah, Murray's a scoring guard. Jokic is a playmaking center. I think, part of the reason why that 2-man action works is they can both do other things though. Like Murray's a great screen setter. He rolls. Like Jokic has guard skills. But they're more natural just fits as puzzle pieces. When you have two
Right.
forwards, it's not necessarily that way. The thing I would say is that, when you look at like elite forward duos and how they've made it work, part of it is they're both strong defensively, right? Like LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, Paul George and Kawhi
Yeah.
Leonard before all this
Smothered
business,
you.
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I know when you go back to the Stan Van Gundy year, like that was something he said every other game. He's like when you look at, elite forward duos, like all these guys defend, and he felt like, the two guys he had that year didn't. I think Brandon has actually been a plus on defense this year. Like I thought it's been pretty good. I mean, the Pelicans are fourth in defense right now. We don't need to talk about
Yep.
Zion's defense. Like we've done that enough on
Yeah.
this podcast, but Brandon, continuing to play well on the defensive end and Zion continuing to improve on that end, I think is going to be very important for this duo going forward.
Yeah, definitely. You have to be able to contribute to other things. When things get bogged down, when things get difficult on defense or in offense, you have to find ways to contribute in other spots. And that's one of our question marks for Zion. Is like, how do you contribute when things aren't working out offensively? And we're starting to see a little bit of that. We've already seen like Brandon's bought in. It's looked great. He has looked perfect in the system. He is making defensive predictions I've never seen him try to make before. He's leaping out for steals and rebounds I've never seen him try to get before. It's looked really good. He's looked as good as all of our solid defenders. Like he's made some reads and stuff. I do feel like our total defense right now a little bit like is slightly, we're ranked a little higher than we actually are. I think we are more, and we talked about this when we tried to do like predictions of what we were going to be. I think we're more of a chaos defense than like an organized, everybody's on a string and we're just like a really solid 5. The backups are a solid 5 and they're kind of on a string. The starting 5, it's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's a mirage, but it's inflated by the amount of deflections they've been able to create. And that's not something like there's a ton of length. So like that will persist to some degree, but that has inflated us like against bad teams. Like, I mean, look at how often the Thunder turn the ball over and how often the backups from Golden State turn the ball over and how often the Spurs turn the ball over. Part of it's them. And that's part of what's inflating you and part of it's deflections. There's still some discipline stuff, but it's looked better. It has like visibly looked better. They are doing the things, getting to the spots they're supposed to get in. I think a lot of that is like due to some personnel changes too, like Dyson getting into the lineup more.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm not going to begrudge them playing well against bad teams. I'm not going to get upset. No. I'm not going to find reasons to pick nits when we're, floating around the top 3 of the West and our only loss in the last 6 is to the number 1 team in the NBA.
Yeah, I had someone on the team say to me they felt like the Boston game was really good for them just because it was a measuring stick game for the Pelicans. It showed them This is what a true elite team in the NBA looks like. They battled in that game certainly, but yeah, they were they were not the better team.
They're outclassed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like before that game, you saw them, mess around with these bad teams a little bit. You haven't seen that since. I'll add one thing to the defense. I've been encouraged, but I think it is a little bit of fool's gold. The Pelicans are 29th or second or however you categorize that. Like opponents are shooting threes at a really low rate, converting threes at a really low rate against the Pelicans right now. Like they've had, just about the best 3-point luck as any team in the NBA. Hopefully I don't jinx them for this game against the Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies said,
yeah, thanks for that. I'm sure that won't bite us in the butt at all. I'm sure that's going to go over swell, and that everybody that listens to this, I'm sure none of them are going to come find you and say that this was your fault if they bomb from three. If Dylan Brooks makes 8 threes, I'm sure it wasn't Christian Clark's fault.
It was. Yeah, that was how they won that last Memphis game too. By the way, it was like, yeah, we're just gonna let Dylan Brooks shoot and let him shoot the Grizzlies out of this game. I mean, that was essentially how they won that game at home without Zion.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, look, I don't think they're as good as 4 or anything like that. I think there's a good chance they're better than I thought they would be on that end. And I think a lot of that just like top 5 in net rating is we're just beating the hell out of the teams we should, especially lately. Like this early in the season, a 45-point win will really help you in the old net rating category.
And that is the sign of a good team. Like good teams don't mess around with lesser teams. You should look like just like the Celtics. The Celtics outclassed us, and it was still competitive in a lot of points. Like we stepped up our 3-point shooting to try to match them, and we just couldn't match them. Like Tatum and Brown made all kinds of everything. Derek White went on a ridiculous heater and made like 6 of 8. When Derek White shoots double his career average from 3, you probably don't win that game. Like, you probably don't win that game. Shooting 70+% from 3 on 6+ attempts, it's usually going to hurt when it's coming from like your 4th or 5th offensive option. So, yeah, it was a rough game. And I think, it's good that we should expect resounding victory over bad teams. And that's what we've been given so far. Light the temp victory cigar over and over and over again. Like I joked early in the Spurs game, they showed a shot of Billy Hernangomez jumping up, throwing his hands up. I was like, that man just jumped because he knows he's playing tonight.
Yeah. Adam, really important question for you. What should our version of light the beam be? If the Pelicans were to do, a celebratory gesture, a celebratory action after a win, what should it be?
I wish I prepped for this. I don't know. I mean, they could always lean on my trusty pigeon call.
Well, it's funny you say that. I was talking about this with some other people. Good friend Will Guillory said Gil Benson should release some pigeons in the air, just like some pigeons in like a cage, and just pull the lever.
We can invite
up
Mike Tyson. Yeah, we can have Mike Tyson out to set him free. Like noted national pigeon lover Mike Tyson.
Yeah, like what if we just had a cannon at Crescent City Park and we just like fired a single cannonball?
Yeah, look, I don't. You obviously like we have tons of history here, so you'd have to lean into something. Like we have a lot of weird traditions. You'd have to do something like super like old and weird. There's something here that we could do that's like it very, very exclusively our historic Spanish French heritage that I feel like we could do. Like we grease poles before Mardi Gras, like that's a thing, so that people can't climb them. Like we have like the greasing of the poles. We need to have something like super strange that no one could mimic. That way, like the Memphis Grizzlies can't show up and then just like jack your style and pretend like they have a culture or decent hotels. I'm going to keep going back. I'm going to be the pettiest Memphis person ever all the time. I know it's like, it's going to get to like borderline. You might get nauseated by it because I feel like you have a general appreciation for good basketball and for small guards. And I am going to be very petty about the Memphis Grizzlies. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. I hate them with every fiber of my being. And yeah, I will be able to say positive things about individual plays that are made. And I will also call John Morant a corny grifter, and Dylan Brooks, if he gets a whistle a la James Harden 2016, I question whether referees should have rights. I don't know. I don't know if they should. If Dylan Brooks could fall over with 0.7 left on the shot clock and get rewarded with a foul, I don't know. Not excited.
I kind of hated all of what you just said there. So Zion is
I know you did.
4-0.
I know you
4-0
do.
against the Grizzlies for his career. Got a chance.
One of us froze out. I don't know. I think it might be him, might be me. Bum bum bum. Here we go. We made it so far. So far, and here we go. I think we have a frozen Christian. So Zion was gonna go potentially go 5-0 after missing the last game. Hopefully he just dunks all over John Morant. Hopefully John Morant has an absolute miserable time on his bum ankle that he rushed back from. Let's see what we can figure out about getting Christian back here. Maybe it's me that's frozen. You never know with this internet stuff. Oh, yep, it was him because I'm here. Well, like he was saying, Zion has a chance to go 5-0 against the Grizzlies. We love that. All the success in the world against the Grizzlies. He may hate that I hate the Grizzlies, but I hate the Grizzlies. Steven Adams looks like he's going to miss this game. You know, famous worm farmer. I didn't have a lot of. I was going to wear like some sort of holiday garb, like a turkey on my head or something, but instead I brought all the turkey. So here's all the very expensive turkey, and look, Christian's back just like that. I did.
Sorry about that.
Hit him with the Zion going 5-0 against the Grizzlies. And notably that Steven Adams looks like he's going to miss this game, and that Ja, it's kind of like weirdly rushed back from an ankle and just like put on some high tops and called it a day. And then I was sharing my my very expensive turkey with the folks. So back to Zion with a chance to go 5-0. Where were you going? What was your next step?
I think all I was going to say was I think he's going to move to 5-0. I think he's got a little confidence after that Spurs game. I'm feeling good at him. No Desmond Bane either. It just, life is a lot easier when you don't have Desmond Bane to worry about.
Get his 6 to 8 made threes against us out of that goddamn lineup. Just get him out of here. My fantasy team be damned. Get him out of here.
Yeah, he's a killer. Adam, any last thoughts before we go watch this U.S. men's team win?
Look, hey, let's sneak in there. Let's get up in there. Let's take down the damn Brits. I'm kidding. Like, look, this is an easy game for me. There's no expectations on us. Getting a draw here would be huge. Wales, funny enough, after tying us late, shit the bed against Iran, and now are in absolute trouble because their keeper came out and karate kicked an offensive player in the head. And so he's toast, red carded, 2 goals. Wales is like knocking on the door of an exit already. Iran, sneakily, they can score a little bit. Like they play a nice counter. They play an offside trap. They scored a little bit against England. England's a little lazy on the defensive end. Like, throw out there my little tidbit. Harry Maguire has been horrific for over a year for club and country. He apparently is going to play on the back line of this team. He does not deserve that spot. And I would like to see that punished by some sort of frantic Brendan Aronson steal the ball goal. Like, Brendan Aronson is like a chaos goal scorer. He steals it off a dude. Like, he turns over a defender. He gets a deflection. He never scores like this, like, methodical goal. It's always some sort of like chaos is happening. Aronson swoops in. He magnetically has the ball on his foot and it's in the back of the net. I'm looking for some of that. I also think we'll bring out a slightly different lineup than last go around, because I think we're playing lineups stylistically against the opponent. So I think hopefully you'll see Aronson start. And then maybe we won't have so much trouble converting on some of the cross creations that we had in the last game. But
Brendan Aronson my boy. Brendan Aronson is my boy. I read this story in the New York Times today. He, in his EPL matches, apparently covers 8.2 miles per game.
He's a freak. He's a freak. I'm telling you, he is everywhere all the time. And like, you have a lot of guys like that, like Tyler Adams, his teammate at Leeds. Those dudes cover more ground than anybody out there. Weston McKennie's playing a little hurt, but he's another dude, covers a ton of ground, can do a lot for you. And, Pulisic is up there creating chances. I just need somebody to get on the end of one and not be shy. And Aronson did like miff one in the Wales game that could have won them that game. But I think he should start, and we should just see like Josh Sargent shouldn't really like he has not earned the chance to get that kind of de facto offensive leeway. So I'd like to see him move to the reserve role and be like your energy guy off the bench. But we'll see. No stakes here. Like England is supposed to win the group. If you draw them, that's devastating for them and a huge deal for you. So like the Wales tie was disappointing. You should have won that game. But I think you still like you win this game, you're getting out of the group. You tie this game, you're probably getting out of the group. If you lose this game, it's kind of what people expected. They're running out like 7 all-world forwards.
All right. Well, let's go get this draw for dessert. Pels can get this win in Memphis. Appreciate you guys hopping on, listening today. This was fun, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you for joining us on a reckless and technologically challenged live.